Now, let me establish this right from Jump Street so that way there's absolutely no confusion at all. No matter what, whenever the Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak was going to end, I wasn't going to like it and I wasn't going to be happy about it. No matter what. No matter who did it, no matter how it was done, why it was done, when it was done, where it was done, what it was done for, it doesn't matter. I was just never going to like it or be happy with it. Now, with that said, also looking at things as I like to do from an analytical kind of business kind of perspective, I could at least understand it to a degree if I felt that it was a decision made at a certain time that could give the company and the product and the talent on that roster a payoff both in the short term and in the long term. Taking something that had over 2 decades worth of investment into it and continuing to get a return on that investment for many years to come. Personally, again, being the huge Undertaker fan that I've been for 20 plus years, I would have never liked it. Probably would have hated it. But I would have at least learned to accept it and perhaps even respect the decision if I felt it was done for the right reasons in the right way. With that said, though, I don't think the decision to end the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania 30 fits into any of those categories. I think it's as ridiculous today as it was back in April, and perhaps even more so. I think it was the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong moment, the wrong individual to do it, the wrong build up to it, the wrong follow up to it. I just think so many things about it were flat out done fucking wrong. And the horrible thing about something like this is once this is done, you can never take it back. There is no redo. There is no pretending that it didn't exist or that it didn't happen. It's there and can never be undone at all. And that's the danger and that's the risk associated with making that type of big time, huge decision. Times you have to make those risky, big time, huge decisions for the best of your company, the best of your business, and you pray and hope that things pan out and they go the way you envision. So I was very curious to see when Vince made his appearance on Austin's podcast this past Monday on the WWE Network. What was he going to say? As I figured Austin was going to bring it up at some point. What was he going to say about The Undertaker and the decision to end the streak at WrestleMania 30? Was he going to admit that it was ultimately his decision? Was he going to give us a real well thought out, articulated kind of roadmap as to why the decision was made and what the benefits to the company short term and long term were for, and give us really valid justifications and defenses for the decision that was made? After hearing Vince, it sounded like exactly what the fuck I thought it was. An out of touch, old, impatient dude that did something off of a whim and now will never want to admit the mistake that he clearly understands that he made. I'm sorry. All the Lesnar heads out there, whatever. Ending the streak at WrestleMania 30 at the hands of Brock Lesnar was stupid. And I will never back off of that, and you will never convince me otherwise. And I look at the current product and I say, you know what? Yeah, it was stupid. It just was. What was even more mind-blowing to me was just how ridiculous Vince constructed the argument supporting his decision. First of all, he did acknowledge and admit that it was his decision, that it was his call, and that Undertaker eventually went along with it. I applaud Vince for having the courage to admit that this ridiculous bullshit was his decision. That takes balls, that takes grapefruits. But at the same point in time, just because something takes guts or nuts doesn't mean that you should be applauded for it necessarily. To see the look on Vince's face where he almost seemed like he took a pride in it and he was proud of his decision, that was incredibly concerning to me. You know, this is where a guy's talking about, the WWE is about storytelling, and I've done videos about this in the past talking about what fucking storytelling. He says that the company and the fans specifically of the company don't want to just see two random people wrestling with no story, even though that's what 95% of their fucking TV product is. Talking about how the story is everything when so often there is no story to most of everything that goes on with the company. You would think that with a guy saying that type of nonsensical, not based on logic or current WWE facts bullshit, that he would understand that he perhaps had no greater single storyline that was still consistently running than The Undertaker's and his streak at WrestleMania. There's no greater story there. And so now, for some reason, he decides that the guy that walked out on his company in 2004 to go play football and then go become a UFC champion, and therefore, as a result, bringing a significant box office boost to a company that directly cut into the WWE's market share, is now the perfect guy, a part-timer, to break the fucking streak. It's just mind-blowing to me. And then the defenses that Vince gave for this, talking about how, who else could it be other than Lesnar? There was nobody else on the freaking roster that was ready. Well, whose fucking fault was that? Once again, Vince, instead of blaming himself, instead of blaming his creative process, instead of blaming his management team, his creative team, and most specifically, again, him fucking self, because he's the HNIC of all that you see in WWE. He's basically passing the buck like he so often fucking does, like the coward that he has grown into, by saying, well, nobody on the fucking roster was ready. Of course nobody on the fucking roster was ready. Because at no point in time did you ever get anybody in a position to be ready to be able to do something like this. And frankly, based off of his run back in the WWE from 2012 until WrestleMania 30, Brock Lesnar most certainly wasn't fucking ready for this. But what a burial of the fucking roster, too. These guys that you've pounded down our throats for fucking years. Guys like Cena, guys like Orton, guys like Triple H. Triple H had 3 different WrestleMania matches against Taker, couldn't win one of them. Orton had his own match at WrestleMania against Taker, couldn't win one of them. Basically, what Vince McMahon said was the guy that was a champion a decade ago that left to go be a practice squad defensive tackle in the NFL for the Vikings that went on to be a 5-3 UFC heavyweight champion, now comes back, loses to Cena, loses once to fucking Triple H, barely beats Punk without help, is the perfect guy to end the streak at WrestleMania. So you're burying the roster, passing the buck along, blaming them instead of blaming yourself for not having anybody fucking ready. You knew someday that this could be a possibility that you might have to do this. You would think, ding dong, dumb dick, at some point in time, you might want to have one guy, maybe a massively over top heel, that would be able to make a career off of fucking ending the Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. So, of course, Vince, knowing that this could be a situation, and perhaps that being a primary factor as to why he made this impulsive, ridiculous decision at WrestleMania 30 to end the streak when he did, you would have thought he would know, with many years of advance notice potentially, that he was going to have to get somebody ready at some point in time, and that this was going to be critically important to the WWE, both in the short term and the long term. And instead, this dumb, senile fuck did nothing. And now he just blames the roster and points out what everybody can see. Hey, Captain fucking Obvious, yes, nobody was fucking ready because you didn't make anybody fucking ready. I would have thought maybe because of the fact he smashed through everybody over the past decade that Cena would have been ready. But he's even saying that Cena himself wasn't fucking ready. That was astounding. That was very eye-opening to hear that come out of Vince's mouth. What was even more eye-opening, though, was when he sat there and said, in defending the decision, that Brock Lesnar is hotter than he's ever been before. And he talked about how great of a special attraction Brock Lesnar is and how he still feels vindicated and he still feels the righteousness of his decision to have Lesnar end the streak at WrestleMania 30. Maybe I would be a little more tolerant of Lesnar ending the streak if he would have actually had him beat Cena at Extreme Rules 2012, if he would have beaten Triple H and he would have blown through everybody and this was the last thing he could have fucking done, that's one thing. If you would have followed that up by having Lesnar make more appearances, doing at least a little bit more, so be it. But now basically here's what you've done. You had Lesnar end the streak, then go away for 4 fucking months, beat Cena's ass at SummerSlam, look kind of chumpish at Night of Champions against Cena in a rematch, and now again he's been gone for almost 3 fucking months now. So basically what you were telling me, if you're Vince McMahon, is that you totally support the decision to have Brock Lesnar end the streak because he was going to be gone for 4 months because he's a fucking part-timer. Then he's going to work a program with Cena because that's what Cena deserves and that's what Lesnar's going to get. So that way he could come back after 3 months of being gone and potentially finish out that program with John fucking Cena. At this point in time, there's not even a guarantee that Lesnar's going to carry that strap into fucking WrestleMania. Yeah, here's Vince talking about how he's hotter than he ever has fucking been and how it's going to be such a special attraction to see Brock at WrestleMania. No, the fuck it's not, dude. It's not. This whole fantasy world that Vince lives in, that Brock Lesnar is some tremendous special attraction from him, is complete and total Lord of the Rings type of fantastical Hobbit ring wearing bullshit nonsense. Lesnar is not a special attraction. He's just not. And the reason I say that is because in theory he could be, is when you have him gone for 3 or 4 months at a time, and in this particular case, you have him gone for 3 months at a time, when you try to say that the belt doesn't matter that much, even though your entire product revolves around that belt, and you can't live without that fucking belt, as we have seen the past 3 months, you have taken that guy from being a special attraction to being absolutely no attraction at all, to where when he does make an appearance, he's been gone too long, people are actually excited to see him, and now he has become the wrong type of fucking attraction. You will take the guy that ended the streak in April, and by the end of December, make him your fucking top babyface, which frankly already was the second that he beat Cena's ass at SummerSlam. There was no planning here. There was no long-term, thought-out trajectory of what you were going to do with Lesnar and how you were going to follow up on this. Lesnar is not the hottest he's ever been. For Vince to say that shows just out of touch and fucking senile this old coot truly is. Clearly, Lesnar is not the hottest he's ever been. Clearly, Lesnar is not a special attraction. And clearly the WWE is not getting back nearly what they should have out of the 2+ decades of investment that they put into the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania. That's the type of shit that when you put that much type of investment in, you want to continue to get return on it for decades. And in this case, you barely have gotten any type of return on it at all. If you sit there, let's say at the Royal Rumble, and you have Cena beat Lesnar for the fucking title, then what the fuck was the point? You just sat there and said nobody else could beat the streak, but then Cena could sit there and beat Lesnar and take the fucking title. It's just dumb. And it was more ramblings from an out-of-touch old man that clearly has no fucking clue anymore. Clearly he doesn't. The decision to end the streak of WrestleMania 30 was dumb. The decision to have Brock Lesnar end it and do what you've done with him afterwards is even more ridiculous. You potentially have had a guy end the streak who might not be with the company after WrestleMania 31. What type of genius that takes? If you would have built up Lesnar like a monster like you should have coming back in 2012, and you had a long-term deal in place with him, or at least you had a deal in place with him to maybe work more dates every 2 months as opposed to every fucking 4 or 6, then while I wouldn't have liked it, and I would have hated it, I could have accepted it, and I could have respected it, and I could have been like, hey, the WWE ultimately did the right thing, and they're getting some long-term return on their investment. They're finally fucking doing something right. But as is so often the case with Vince McMahon and the WWE today, they take one of the few good things they fucking got as a feather in their cap, and they find a way to piss it down their legs and completely fucking ruin it. Oh, Lesnar was the right guy. He's a special attraction. No, he's no attraction. He's your champion, and we haven't seen him since September, you stupid fuck. Nobody else on your roster is ready. Don't blame the roster. Blame yourself, asshole. You had years to prepare. And we wonder why the WWE is going in the trajectory. Look at the senile fuck running the show at the top.